back here. It's another Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Believe it.
Cafe. Sitting here in the studio with Jamie Lowell. What's going on, brother?
Hello, I'm busy giving somebody some shit right now. Can I even be heard? I can't hear myself at all. I don't believe that I'm being heard.
Debra Young here. Can we hear her?
I hear you, and I hear me too.
Sweet. We're good then.
Hey, Razor Ray. Welcome back on the fucking K radio broadcast.
Am I just shut out?
No, I hear you, Jamie. You're just not listening.
Rick.
I wouldn't blame anybody to shut me out.
You would never do that.
Thank you, Deb. You are
Rick, what's
sauce.
going on, man? Still here? Rick is here.
Rick's in there somewhere.
But I know it.
Ricky,
I'm here.
Oh,
Yeah.
Rick. There he is.
Rick's the loudest of them all.
There
Wow,
you go.
that's crazy.
What's going on, brah?
Jamie's really soft, though. Can't hardly hear him.
I know.
He's not talking.
Ray's here, so maybe we can change that.
I don't understand how I can't even understand how you say he's really soft when he's protruding.
Well, and there was a photo too that was quite grotesque. So that might have a issue.
Yeah.
That might be why Jamie's having an issue right now.
Yeah, well, I was looking at some guy with elephantitis of the
it was pretty
entire
bad.
genitalia section.
Yeah, I'm sure that Jamie's having second thoughts now about any encounters.
I was like, hey, Jamie, look at this. Look at these nuts.
So,
Wow.
That's crazy.
Anyway,
we got St. Patrick's Day.
just around the corner.
Wow.
Speaking
Around the
of speaking
corner.
of nuts,
Where are you going for St. Patty's Day, Derek? Where are you going?
I'm actually going down to a place called Hocking Hills.
Oh, you know what?
Uh-huh.
Dave and I got married in Hocking Hills. It's in Ohio.
It is.
Dude,
It's
did
definitely
you
in
rent a
Ohio.
cabin and stuff? Because
Yeah, we did.
you're
We
gonna
did.
love it. It's
It's a
awesome.
cabin?
Yeah,
It's
with
gonna be
a-
amazing.
Yeah,
We're
it was
excited.
amazing. I'm telling you, ours had a deck with a hot tub. It was great. They
Dang.
come in and they'll do in cabin couples massages and stuff.
Wow.
And you're totally secluded. So if you want to run around naked in the woods, it's fine. There's
can.
Or
nobody
smoke
around.
cannabis.
Yeah, or smoke cannabis.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna love
So
it.
because
Watch out for poison ivy, though. Don't run
Shut
around
up.
naked in the woods. Bad advice to give in Michigan.
You
It's
don't
Ohio,
roll
man.
in
Well,
it,
it's
but you
Ohio.
can
It's
run in
different.
it. It's Ohio, Rick. It's fine.
anyway,
Oh, well, there's no poison ivy in Ohio. No big deal.
It's
then.
fine. Don't worry about it.
or
It's fine.
shitty roads either.
so some are calling the holiday now St. Fatty's Day.
Yeah.
And that could be fitting because
Big
I guess
greens.
about half of Irish citizens are down to make it legal for recreational use. They already have it medical legal. So
Yeah.
Where in Ireland?
In Ireland.
Wow, it's such a
So St.
conservative
Fatty's
country.
Day.
Oh,
Yeah,
they should
see?
do it.
They should
Just go with the
definitely
St.
do it.
Fatties.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stop these. These
Keep
are-
420 how it is, but it'd probably be a much safer holiday if everybody's just consuming more blunts.
How many times have you ever, just gotten really sick from drinking?
We were
Oh,
just
last
discussing
Friday.
this brown alcohol, especially
It was
brown
because I
liquor.
don't really understand how to drink.
You got sick Friday, Derek?
I did. See, that's the thing. I don't drink too often.
This was part of the club story you were telling
Yeah,
me.
I only got partially way through there. But see, with weed, if you accidentally consume too much because you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you're more than likely not going to get sick.
No, you
and
won't
again,
get
I'm not
sick.
a doctor.
You won't
Yeah,
get
you're
sick.
not.
You might go to
I'm not a
sleep
doctor
or,
either, but I think you're going to fall
yeah.
asleep.
You'll fall asleep.
Yeah, you probably fall asleep, feel better the next day.
You'll be fine. Everything's fine, right, Rick? It's all good.
Absolutely. Everything's great.
No hangover.
Jamie's fighting with somebody. I'm going to give a little commentary. There's a Facebook group with somebody from the Miles campaign. What's the guy's name?
Dickhead.
Dickhead.
Total dick.
That's been messing. Well, first he started messing with me because Jamie posted something and I posted a clever retort, and this guy jumped all over me for a couple of hours, and then Jamie jumped in, and I've left it to Jamie now. So that's what Jamie's concentrating on.
Hey, man, frick you, dude.
Now this guy's very well rehearsed. They've got revisionist
They're
history.
paying people, in my
Yeah,
opinion,
they are.
and the fact it's been admitted at times, although it's not this particular guy yet.
Maybe
but
it's
probably
that.
to try to deflect the truth. Patrick Miles Jr. May have conveniently said that he now supports legalization all of a sudden when it becomes obvious that it was hurting his campaign.
Yep.
But he has still never taken responsibility or acknowledged his part in the Oklahoma 7 prosecutions, and so fuck him.
Well, now suddenly he's the weed guy. He's running. I'm the weed guy.
Hey, you didn't
What?
know? Shit, it's all about the weed from the get. You just didn't want people to know at first.
Holy cow!
Oh, I get my weed from him.
I heard he's growing some good
Ridiculous.
shit.
But yeah, at first when we would post the truth, we just get a lot of people agreeing. Now we're starting to get some of the people that he's obviously trained and rehearsed, and because they're repeating the same words and the same weirdness. I don't know.
Hey, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. So, What are we worried about? We got a couple big things this week. It is the final punchline, the last 48 hours, right, of people to become a Democrat so they can support Dana Nessel.
Yeah.
You have to get in now. You got 2 days, right?
Yeah,
I might be wrong. 24 hours.
Well, I want
Let's
to
say
tell
24.
you too that I got a piece of campaign literature from the Miles campaign in the mail today, and he's urging his supporters. This is the first time I've seen this. His supporters to come to the convention and vote for him. So they're obviously aware of the efforts that various groups, including us here and all over the state, are forming to come to back Dana. So he's jumping on this bandwagon, but it's weird to me that he would send out this thing a day or two before the deadline. Rick, is it possible that the Michigan Democratic Party could change their policy to accommodate Miles registering more people before the deadline?
No. No, they really couldn't, because it's a charter-directed restriction as far as the 30-day period beforehand. So it would involve a vote that could only be taken by a group of Dems that won't be meeting until that convention. So I just don't think it's possible for that to happen.
Okay, so we can put that conspiracy theory to rest. Hopefully, right? Because we don't know. I mean, groups do things that they're not supposed to do all the time. So maybe if they think nobody's watching, but we are watching.
Hey, let a conspiracy theory just kind of sit there. It ain't doing nothing else. It's
true.
Look at.
Totally.
So, Rick, how was your week so far since last Tuesday?
Things are great in my world. I have to say, there's so much going on now. We start talking about events coming up, and then we start talking about non-cannabis related things like election type stuff going on in 2018, and then we talk about national issues like what's going on with CBD and some of the proposed bills in the national legislature. If you stay in touch with cannabis news and if you stay on top of all this stuff, your day's full. You don't have any time for Trump and all this nonsense about firing his Secretary of State and hiring his old boy buddy. None of that stuff just fits into the day. You're much happier if you just focus on cannabis news and information. So
Yes.
That's a life lesson for all the listeners today. Politics is important, but just pay attention to weed.
I love that. That's perfect. And I guess it's also a reminder that even though there can be assholes running the joint, we can still have the things that we want if we fight hard enough for it. That's crazy as shit. Rick, you're optimistic as hell. Always got me thinking.
Got positive energies.
Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm not optimistic. Today happens to be a pretty good day. But
That's what happens when you start your day in the gym, bro.
In the gym,
Oh,
at
I did
six,
saw- I
it's
saw
like
that.
6 o'clock and looking good.
Yeah, seeing that you were at the
Yeah,
gym
right.
this morning, bro.
Looking buff
So
and
buffing it
Jimmy.
out, man, and that's how you keep a level head.
Don't tell me that's the formula. That's a lot of work, man. If I have to do that to be happy every day, wow, that's a lot of work.
Well, that and a few nuggets, you know what I'm saying? A couple of nuggets.
Yep, I do.
So
Yep.
that plus.
That helps. I'll say this, though. When you go to a center like the YMCA and you're surrounded by other people who are investing in themselves, investing time in themselves, it's easier to believe that it's the right thing to do. When you surround yourself with people who are just always negative and nothing's ever right in their life and they always have someone that's bothering them and they would just love to bend your ear for about half an hour where they do nothing but spit out hate and anger, and you just sit there and listen to it, I mean, those people are not so good. Not so much fun. I'd much rather be around happy, smiling people who are, doing something to help themselves. So
I can't agree with you more.
That's it.
We got a lot to talk about today in the show. We got a lot of pretty big topics, but before we get to them, we're gonna have our 420 break. Even before that, though, Jamie, aren't you speaking today in Plymouth, Michigan?
Yeah, what's going on with you, Dane?
I am, and we're going to talk about this a little more, and hopefully our guest, Attorney Michael Kamar, will call in a little bit later after our 420 break, and because there's a few things coming up this month in which will be involving his presence and Reyes here, and he'll be involved, and Deb's not coming out tonight, I believe, but she'll be out tomorrow night.
I will be out tomorrow
And
night.
we're going to lay all this shit out when Michael's on, I think. But yes, I'm going to be at the Plymouth Democratic Club tonight. I was at the Canton Democratic Club last week, and the Benzie Democratic Club a few days before that. So it's been kind of the thing this year, going around talking about our plan for legalization and at these clubs, and the support is there. There's no as far as the people who are aware. in paying attention to these issues.
I guess that's the reason I wanted to dive in. I don't want to talk about it now. I wanted to spit it early, so if somebody wants to jump in their car and start flying to the library, they know where to go. So what is it, the district library there in Plymouth?
Plymouth District Library. I think the whole thing starts at 7. The panel starts around 7:30.
Oh, nice. Hey, shit, we
And
can.
hey, our good friend of the show, Zahara Abbas,
Abbas, Zara Z.
Nice.
will be there.
Zizi.
She is a great, as we discussed on the show a few times.
We love her.
She's a great patient
She's
testimonial.
amazing.
She's great for representing.
But she's just a nice person.
Those kinds of
anyways,
people
even
who
if she's
wouldn't
not
normally-
representing. Yeah.
I mean, she comes from this religious background. She's Muslim. Not a lot of people around her really were aware of her or really into cannabis all that much, but she got turned on to it and it worked for her. And now she has no qualms going
She's
around talking
changed
about
a
it.
lot of hearts and
Yeah.
minds in her community and in the state in general. And she, like I say, she's just a nice person, even if she wasn't doing this.
She really is. She is
Yeah.
nice.
Well, she helps out in other areas too. She's
Yeah.
politically very involved and
Yeah.
cares about things. And
Yep.
her and Colin seem to be making a little nice team here, in support of
Yeah.
a lot of good causes around the state. So,
Making
Yeah.
some noise.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Boom.
what you got to do. That's how changes are made on the local level, like that, starting with one person. That's how we do it.
Yeah, because if something helps you, you should tell people. But what
Mhm.
they're doing goes well beyond
Oh
that.
yeah, she's
screaming.
way out with that. Yeah, she's done a great job.
Oh shit, Ray,
What's that noise, Rick? Are you okay?
What's
No,
going on
Ray's
there?
okay. Rick, are
Is
you
that-
okay?
is that-
I didn't hear a noise. I didn't know what you're talking about.
He's being
Dislodging something from your throat.
That's what it sounded like to me. Something was caught in his throat.
No, I'm preparing my news segment that we'll do at 5 o'clock today. And as I flip through some of these articles, there's those irritating pop-up things that autoplay a video.
Yeah.
And it's at maximum volume, and it's an advertisement for something I will never purchase and I have no interest in. So, you almost have to surf the web with your volume turned all the way off nowadays. Kind of sucks.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes they won't shut off. You keep hitting it and it won't go off. It's crazy.
know.
Yeah.
Yep.
So before our 420 break,
That's what my girlfriend says. Yeah.
can you guys think of any weed-related ways that people can celebrate St. Patrick's Day?
On my front porch, it's
yeah.
going to be quite a celebration.
Well, we can discuss.
shit.
There are many different kinds of types of cannabis in many different forms, many different delivery systems
I would do
and
they
devices to use.
maybe some bright green rolling papers would be.
Well,
You
I'm
can
trying to
smoke green weed.
explain that anybody can smoke. Or,
yeah, you don't have to be Irish to smoke weed. I think
Or
we all agree.
vaporize.
Or vaporize or do any
or
of these
eat it,
things.
or rub it on, or drink
Exactly.
it, or whatever you want to do with it, and then that's a good way of
Yeah,
celebrating.
You think?
yeah.
Is that what you think, Ray?
I think.
But you know that
Therefore I am.
I stink. Therefore
I stank. Therefore I dank.
Therefore,
There we go, bro. That's
That's
a
it.
deep thought.
that's
was
it.
deep.
I
It's-
stank.
it's a-
Therefore I dank.
it's some kind of a new jam or
It's
something.
therefore I stank. Yeah,
Or
there you go.
or I dank. Therefore I stank. Either way,
Hells yes.
it could go either way.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's one of those things. It's binary.
it's deep. It's almost too deep.
It's almost too deep. Like
I
a
don't know.
like a horse too deep. Like I want to say
So,
that.
Jamie, are we going to have a call-in guest today? What's going on with the show, bud?
No.
You're the man,
Dude,
Well-
you are rocking it.
Yeah.
As previously mentioned,
Michael. I think.
Michael Camore
Yeah, Michael Colin.
supposed to call in.
And as you
Sometimes
can hear,
things happen with schedule or memory or desire, but
What time was he
but
supposed to
hopefully
call?
he'll call in. He called in
after-
before and did a great job at 4:30.
After the 420
Yeah.
break. Michael
I was
knows.
saying you might be
Yeah,
able
he's
to hear
good.
that we're
Oh,
eating
he's good.
sour.
Michael will be
Patch Kids right now.
outstanding as usual, I'm sure.
So Michael will be involved tonight in this panel discussion
Mhm.
with Zahara and also Harley, I can't think of his last, Harley Sherman, the CPA, who's kind of good guy getting involved in the medical marijuana side of stuff. So
Got a
that'll be
jaw right
tonight.
into the mic
Tomorrow
like that.
night, the PAC, Putting Patients First, which is a PAC that's kind of been formed with the people of Camorran Law and Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, and it will go toward things that obviously help out the patients. And right now the group's working on getting more qualifying conditions added to the list. They are backing Dana and other pro pot candidates, and so it's a good PAC, and that'll raise some money tomorrow. Also, be a venue and a way to get more people signed up to the party. We only have like hours left to sign up for the party. If you're not, and then to encourage people to make it down to the
I'm going to
convention.
kick
'cause
someone's ass if they miss this.
there's no
deadline.
primaries.
After all we've been saying, you know.
You can't do it any other way but show up April 15th in Detroit and cast the vote as a party member.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, nobody better come rolling around me Thursday saying, "Well, how do I sign up?" Because we have told people.
I'm
over
predicting
and
Ray's
over.
going to dick this one off.
I have a
Ray
feeling.
did not.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid because I
Oh,
forget things. Like
Ray,
I'm terrible.
He uses his near death a few years ago as a convenient excuse.
I know I got holes in my head and I have titanium rods inside of my skull, so it really does kind of prevent me from.
Titanium.
Yep, I'm a true man. Actually.
It's kind of like a dab nail. We could just
I
torch
really,
up
you know
your
what?
head.
I do have a dab nail in my
I
skull.
know. We could just torch up Ray's head. We wouldn't even have to put no dabs on there.
Y'all
It's
could
probably all
just-
like soaked into his membranes.
Yep, y'all could just put a torch to my face and
Yep.
suck it out my butt.
Wow, Jamie goes first, okay? In that train, Jamie
Jamie's
will go
like,
first.
"Yeah, I'll have to go. It's not gay.
It's not worth it unless you do go first, really.
It's,
And then getting back to my coherent information that I was offering, March 23rd, in Bay City at the offices of MMLE, Michigan Marijuana Licensing Experts, and Happy Life. We'll have our networking meeting, and Dana Nessel and Michael Camorn will be our featured speakers.
Very cool.
Holy
shit.
Happy
That'll be
Life,
cool.
everybody.
Yeah.
Happy Life. Get up there and check it out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The intersection
Happy
of 23 and
Life.
65 in Ulmer, Michigan, or
Yeah.
Augra area.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
So,
So
I'm
it's
thinking,
about the time.
yeah, we're closing
Holy
in
shit.
on
I wanted to test this.
Yep, we got 3 minutes.
closing.
Oh wait, that's way piercing. Oh, I was trying to the bell. See, like a 4:20 bell. Be like time for 4:20.
Not quite. I mean, we're creeping up on it.
We're
but,
getting
like,
pretty
we don't
Yeah,
know-
but you
close.
gotta be.
You don't need to
gotta
ring the
be-
bell prematurely, necessarily.
I wanted to test the bell.
Oh, it was
Okay.
just bell. It was testing.
Let's
Testicle.
test it.
Jeez, are we doing that again?
It was testicle
You're
1,
right,
2.
Testicle
Yeah.
1, 2, 1, 2.
It's always
Or 1, 1, 1.
about
All right. So
Stuff
since
like
we have
that.
so much to talk about, we're gonna stick around for a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Hey man, you know what? Okay, what do you think, Jamie? Dabs versus fucking just smoking a bong.
Well, something for everybody. That's been part of the conversation today. There's so many different things you can do, and people gravitate towards certain things. Seems like the young people these days
I really preferring the
are
dabs.
really preferring to have a big setup,
Those
big rig
crazy
with torches
youngsters,
and
you
nice
know?
glass and all these. Sometimes the electric nail and all these things, and sometimes it appears as though you might be involved in something other than cannabis, but that's all it is. Just a cool, elaborate
Yeah.
way to use cannabis, and some people really dig that. I'm the old school flower guy.
Me too.
I go back and forth
Bongs
and
and big
around
fat
and
joints.
around.
I certainly
And
will
I
get involved
love
in the dabs,
flower, but if there's some dabs, and I bought a nice rig too. I mean, you know, everybody got into it for a minute. It's delicious, but I prefer flower.
Now, do you notice that is it harsher on your lungs
Oh man.
after a certain amount of
Don't
time
you
versus
think so?
flower?
And it also depends on who manufactured, who blew those dabs. I mean, who made
Right.
that?
Yeah, it's a big
What
factor.
what did they use? What kind of
butane versus
butane.
So can I ring the
Extraction
Standards are pretty
methods.
high. I think we're getting
Standards
close to
are
ringing
high
the bell.
now.
You're trying to like
Yeah, ring that
appetize
bell.
us here,
We're
man.
get there. It's getting there.
I don't think there's going to be a
Oh.
dab, but Jazz Cabbage Cafe will get our heads straight here
Yeah.
for 420.
And as we do that, what do we got? Yes. We got some heavy shit.
From my face, wipe these tears from my eyes. Now is the time for me to rise to my feet. Wipe the spit from my face, wipe these tears from my eyes. I've got to take my life back, one chance to make it right. I'm gonna have my voice be heard and bring meaning to this life. 'Cause I trusted for nothing. I've been led astray. I've been for me to rise to my feet. Wipe your spit from my face, wipe these tears from my eyes. Now is the time for me to rise to my feet. Wipe your spit from my face, wipe these tears from my eyes. I've got to take my life back, one chance to make it right. I'm gonna have my voice be heard and bring meaning to this life. 'Cause I've trusted for nothing, I've been led astray. I've been tried and tested, but I won't accept defeat. I've done things I regret, and it's time to reverse the roles. Now I just wanna make good on all the promises I have made. I will be. I will be. I will be heard. I will be. I will be heard. Now is the time for me to rise to my feet. Wipe your spit from my face, wipe these tears from my eyes. I will be.
I don't trust myself and I can see reason being. You're more worried about than you're about me. Stop faking. Eyes on the back of my head, got 'em both on yes. Because blood might be thicker than water, but blood ain't thicker than slime. Ow! I've got a lot to lose, and you've got a lot to prove. No losses, all tens, 'cause if you don't beat 'em, you're never gonna win. I don't trust myself and I can see being. No more worried about than you're about me. Stop faking. I don't owe you shit. I'm in your best interest. Take it or leave it. No more little Miss Nice Bitch. Used up all your chances and too much of my time. Sorry, I'm not sorry. Your problem, not mine. I don't trust myself and I can see reason being. No more worried about you, you're about me. Stop faking. I don't owe you shit. I'm in your best interest. Take it or leave it. No more little Miss Nice Bitch. All the apologies don't guarantee forgiveness. I'm not your guy. I'm just a witness. No more little Miss Nice Bitch. No more little Miss Nice Bitch. No more little Miss Nice Bitch. I don't trust myself and I see being. No more worried about than you're about me. Stop faking. I don't owe you shit. I'm in your best interest. Take it or leave it. No more little Miss Nice Bitch. No more little Miss Nice Bitch. If you don't be down, you can't win. No more little Miss Nice Bitch. If you don't be down, you're never gonna win. No more little Miss Nice Bitch.
I hear the train a-comin', it's rolling around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps rolling on down to San Antone. When I was just a baby, baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blowing, I hang my head and cry. There's rich folks eating in a fancy dining car. They're probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free. But those people keep a moving, and that's what tortures me. That railroad train was mine, I bet I'd move it on a little farther down the line. Far from Folsom Prison, that's where I want to stay. And I'd let that lonesome whistle blow my blues away.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Post 420 break.
Yes.
A little nipply out there today.
Nice. A little chilly. It certainly is.
Freezing. I think that's what you mean by chilly, right? It's freezing.
It's cold. It's like burrito. My fingers hurt. It's a little chillito outside.
So we still got Rick on the phone. What's up, man?
What's up, Rick? Rick was talking. We could hear you
What
outside.
up, Rick? We heard you
outside.
say
We
something.
could hear you say something. What were you asking us while we were outside?
Like, are you there still? Or?
Oh, no, I was talking to myself. Hey, how's conversation going? I never get an argument that I can't solve.
It was
yeah.
Yeah, we could hear you.
Yeah.
Through a
Heard you.
closed and
We heard
locked
you. Didn't sound-
cement brick wall.
And it didn't sound crazy either.
Well, I needed to be forceful with myself. I was giving myself a hard time, so I had to give myself a smackdown.
You
So,
always,
that's what goes on.
I always recommend you be forceful with yourself. What do you
Sure,
think,
always
Ray?
be
Always.
forceful with yourself.
Always be forceful.
Well, sometimes I take a hard lesson in order to learn something. So sometimes I have to be a little rude to myself in order to get me to understand what I'm trying to say.
That's discipline.
Uh-huh.
Indeed.
Yep. Jamie,
I hope there's no psychologist listening to this radio
I think
program.
Jamie's fighting on Facebook
I
again.
know. I'm just.
Oh, they already know.
I'm giving
They already
Michael
know.
a word to give us a call now.
Michael, where are you?
Yeah.
He told me he listens to the show.
So,
Michael,
Rick, did
how?
you end up making it out to Vehicle City when they did their own Puff Puff paint?
I did not. I've done puff paint in the past. I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. Very open environment. No one is ever critical of the painting that you do, and if you're a first timer, it's a lot easier than you might imagine because they stencil out the outline of the project that everybody works on at the same time. It's really awesome.
Yeah, it's a paint by
So,
number. It's
it's a paint by number
Yeah,
sample
it's a
flavor.
paint. Yeah,
I
and
guess
it's
I'm
easy to
concerned
do.
about the canvas,
and
though.
it comes out great. It does.
Is it BYOW?
Yeah.
Bring-
Sometimes.
it
So
is.
yeah,
You
but
bring-
I've been to some that are not. I mean, it depends. You have to, but check in advance.
I like that. That's awesome. It's
Yeah.
like an LSGH session.
Yeah.
The important thing is when we talk about, if people were just listening to the show, they might think that the only things going on in Michigan's cannabis life is just political stuff or these giant gatherings we do. But there are so many different ways for people to get involved in the community on a smaller level. Puff Paint typically has less than 20 people at it, which is a great number. You get some individual attention from the instructor. You get a lot of camaraderie with the other people going on there too. there's just no negative about it. It's awesome, and you get to take home a piece of artwork that you're completely embarrassed about and hide it for decades. So what's wrong with that?
Well, I guess I like the niche market and that being available because cannabis has to be made into, you have to get into a private club and you have to be in a private group to celebrate it. But I do wish there was not a puff paint, I should say. Is that controversial?
Why?
I wish there was just a paint your shit thing where they're drinking.
Well, there's
wine, they're
elevated
smoking
yoga
cannabis,
too,
Nobody
and
gives a fuck.
And maybe you could just
It doesn't
go
have to
and
be a specific one.
nobody would give a fuck
Just
about
a paint
that either.
and do whatever you want.
Yeah,
No,
dude.
no, it's just to smoke wherever and whenever you want, and then do whatever you
Do
want to
whatever you
go
want
happen to
while
go
you're
do.
smoking.
Is what it
Exactly.
ultimately is.
Wanna do.
Smoke
Exactly.
and do whatever you want.
Exactly. So
Kinda cool.
That's
I
our
mean, it's a
motto.
good. Yeah, I'll be able to see if. But yeah, that way it's not so segregated. Got to keep us all separate. Can't be. Because I'd like to bring. If it's called puff paint, somebody that's not a cannabis user is gonna be like, oh.
I don't gotta.
Do you know people who are not cannabis users?
I do.
Really?
I do.
Who would be offended if you took them to an event where people were using cannabis?
No, not at all.
Okay, so then you could just
But if
take
the
them.
title of
By
the
surprise!
it's just I wish it was not a strictly cannabis event. You know what I mean? The hash bash is great because we all are saying, all right, that's our shit, that's our day, we're gonna do our thing. Same with 420. But all these puff paints, it'd just be great if there's just a fucking what did you call it? 1, 2, 3 paint. What did you say it was called? The normal one?
Well, there's a couple different ones. There's
the
one in
normal?
downtown Ferndale. It's called Twisted something. I can't remember. Twisted.
So imagine if Twisted something
Yeah,
let you smoked weed.
I can't remember
Oh, yeah.
Twisted something.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
so cool.
Yeah,
Or
but they
you just
don't.
you smoke weed in your car right before
You
you
can
go
see
do
them
it,
drinking in
No,
there,
see,
though.
it's
and then
fucked up,
immediately thereafter.
Yeah.
No, see,
Or my
that's
front
fucked up.
porch if you're doing it.
Why is
My
that?
version of elevated yoga too.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, that's right. You're doing more yoga nowadays, aren't you?
Yeah, although I mellowed out a little bit, I got to kind of get back into it. But,
So have you?
So one of the things about I'm sorry, go ahead, Derek.
No, I was just about to ask if you mastered the standing lotus.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
Jamie?
I'm standing, but my arms and legs are in the air. Yes, that's what you mean.
That's cool.
I don't want to know.
Does it involve straps and pulleys or
Oh,
what?
he's doing it. All right.
This didn't get.
All right, I'm
gay.
posting a picture of Jamie doing this right
Yeah.
now on the Jazz
Yeah.
Cabbage Facebook.
My God. So, when it comes down to events, though, I mean, as we've talked about here, there are a lot of things that you can go to. Medicinal cannabis helps for so many different things, removing anxiety, helping to control tremors, helping to make it possible for people with Crohn's or IBS to just stay in one place for an hour and deal with other people. So it's completely legitimate to be able to utilize cannabis before an event, and then as Jamie mentioned, when you come out after a couple of hours, to renew your medication. That's perfectly fine. In the state of Michigan, though, there's some crazy rules about whether or not you can in a car, or whether or not if someone can see you, whether it is or is not legal.
Right.
So, there's so many different ways that the medical marijuana program in Michigan could be improved if our Supreme Court and Court of Appeals were a little bit more compassionate or had a broader view of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, which was a voter-directed initiative and is supposed to be interpreted liberally, not conservatively. So still some room for improvement in Michigan, but man, I read stories from other states, and we got it pretty darn good, guys.
Yeah, I'm not complaining at all, but I'm just saying it could be better if it were celebrated like booze. You know what I mean?
Well,
if
it
there
could
was
be
just
better,
like
but,
like,
it could
could
be
just-
so much worse.
It didn't have to be the whole. The medical thing is great, and of course that should be the main reason that people should have safe access to it. But in addition to that, I think that people should be able to be openly just recreational.
Of course.
We'll
I think
get
we all
there.
agree with that.
We'll get there.
Yeah, it might take a little time.
Next major step toward that is voting for the legalized CRMLA proposal.
No, the next major step
November.
is voting for Dana Nessel April 15th. That's a huge step towards that.
Well, that they work together because
Right.
that new law won't get properly implemented if anybody other than Dana Nessel
if
is sitting in
somebody's
that
hostile
position.
towards it, we are going to be screwed. I mean, it's going to be a constant battle.
Oh, let's hope
Well,
not.
I saw one of those quotes from Patrick Miles from 2017, back when he was, saying how he really believed and felt about the medical marijuana law.
Right.
And he said when people voted in 2008, they thought people were going to get it with prescriptions
Right.
from pharmacies. They had no idea that it was going to be the way that it is right now.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, what state were you living in 2008? Bill Schuette and Sheriff Bouchard made damn sure everybody believed there would be a pot shop opening up on every street corner. That's what their advertisements were about. That's what their public relations campaign was about. That was the whole anti-campaign. So for Patrick Miles to try and modify his position now in 2018 to be more voter-friendly, I don't buy it. Leopards can't change their spots. They may get muddy, and you may get concealed, but eventually we learn exactly what kind of cat you are, buddy.
It's just laughable, Rick. It's just like he's obviously pandering to I think to us, as if we would be too stupid to not realize that this is just, what do they call this, fake news.
And that's a good time to mention this, and I'm kind of proud of Am I Legalized to take a position and for the first time endorse a candidate, recognizing how important this position of Attorney General is for the mission of getting the laws to change to really get realized as intended. And and then last week we announced the Michigan Education Association
MEA.
and some other skilled workers, the utilities. I'm not sure exactly what the name of the organization is, but like the utility workers just endorsed Dana Nessel too.
There'll be more. The unions typically hold what they call an endorsement. I don't know what they call it, but it's an endorsement thing where they all get together, the executive board, and they interview candidates, and the candidates will come into the union, they'll interview them, or they'll do it, maybe they'll do it by phone now, but I know that recently they make them come in, and then they issue an endorsement. And a lot of the unions have not done that yet, and a lot of unions do not do that for a primary. They just don't. They wait for a general election and then do it like that. So, we're going to see. Dana might end up with a bunch more. I certainly hope so. I want to know where the American Federation of Teachers stands here. They represent Detroit teachers, which is the biggest district in the state. Where do they stand on this? We haven't heard anything from them either. So, hopefully the other unions will get on board. If not, it's going to be the People's Convention. We know that, with or without any more union endorsements.
This is getting down to the wire for the Democratic Party participation for the convention, so just another reminder.
Everybody better be there. We're making plans, and we're taking names.
Yep.
We think that Ray did sign up. I think that
Yeah, we were
Ray
realizing,
signed
like,
up.
oh, yeah, I'm like, I
signed
know
up.
it.
the same
Ray
day
said.
that Q signed up and that Earl Carruthers signed up, because we were at the Michigan the Minorities for Medical Marijuana meeting with Margot Bruner.
That's
Over at
yeah.
the golf club, right?
No, at the MSU offices in Detroit.
Oh, that's where it was at. Jeez.
Now I got a question. If you can't make it down to the convention, should you still sign up?
Yes.
Well,
Well,
unless you want to join
Unless
the
you wanna-
Democratic
yeah.
Party.
I mean, we were discussing this on Michael's show the other day. Chad and I were. Maybe if you want to stay and be an agitator from within, which we're considering doing anyway. So
if you have a motivation to it, but I mean the reason, the sole purpose that some people are doing it is
Right.
just to be able to be eligible to help
Right.
vote for the endorsement at the convention.
Just to get Dana Nessel in.
Yes.
There really isn't a whole lot to being a Democrat after that convention.
Right.
There'll be another convention in the fall, but I'm sorry, not another convention. There will be a primary vote in the fall, but once the nominating convention's over, your party responsibilities essentially, go away. Now, most people, regardless of their party stance, are going to support candidates that support the things they want, whether they're independents, libertarians, green, Republicans, Dems. So, I mean, there's really no negative to joining the Dems, but after the convention, and if you've missed the opportunity to vote, there may not be a whole lot of pro, option there. If you want to join the Republican convention later in the year and then vote for somebody who's not named Bill Schuette for the gubernatorial nomination, then you really probably shouldn't register a Democrat early. You should probably wait until then, if that's your plan.
It's just crazy, man. Like, you have to be able to make it to this one place at this one time. It should be like a district type of vote, just like a normal
Man,
election.
imagine the people in the UP. There's people organizing in the UP to come down for this thing. That's a tremendous effort, man, and it's a commitment of time, and you got to stay for a day or two for that. I mean, I suppose some people might come down and go back up, but that's a rough road.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
I can appreciate some people may be familiar with Michigan, people that are listening to the podcast in other states. Michigan is a really long state. If you go from the Ohio border on the southeast end all the way to the Wisconsin border on the northwest end, it's a 12-hour drive. I mean, it's 6 hours to the bridge, and then it's another 5 all the way across the UP.
Yeah.
This is a big state. So when we have people drive distance to come to Detroit, which is essentially as far south and as far east as you can, reasonably get here in the state, about 45 minutes north of Ohio. If you're not from Michigan, you don't appreciate how much of an effort it really is to do that.
It is, yeah. And a lot of people don't do it for that reason, but we've seen some excitement even up in Marquette, and we were there not too long ago, and people are organizing to make it down to contribute.
Well,
man.
I mean,
and there's other ways it can be done. You can do an absentee ballot system for a party. All they have to do is agree to do it. They could send out absentee ballots to any registered Dem that wish to have one, and therefore balloting could take place within that 30-day period. So more voices would be heard. However, if you're in the leadership of the party and you pretty much get whatever you want and you pretty much nominate whatever candidate you want, more input from people just means you get less of what you want, and that may not be conducive to what they are trying to accomplish. So we see sometimes organizations, just like governments, need to be pulled, kicking and screaming, into the modern times and be a little bit more accepting of the variety of people's needs instead of just the same old thing that worked in 1950.
Yeah, 2 hours from the state capitol to cast your vote. It's just insane. Everybody should be able to just simply, as you said, mail it in. Or, it's
use online stuff.
Online. Every ballot per one person. But, I mean, there's no real way of making sure
there are security measures that take place when transactions take place online, and
Right.
the ways of verifying identification and things like that. There could be some. I think it might even already been started in some places and in some circumstances. It can be done. Certainly, if a concerted effort is made, it could be done. I mean,
They make it difficult on purpose. It's obvious.
Sounds like
Well, each party member has their own unique ID number. So if you know that you get one vote cast per ID number, then you're not getting people voting more than once. And like Jamie said, there are electronic signature methods. There's ways you can certify that you are who you say you are. With the electronics nowadays, they could do that, and it would be free. They wouldn't even have to mail things to people. They could just set up a website, pay for some hosting, and that's it. So it would be easier, and it would be super inexpensive. So one has to wonder why intelligent people don't take that path.
Because it's just
because of the
easily
reason I outlined a
manipulated.
minute ago.
You could fix it easier, and even if you couldn't fix it easier, people would claim that you did.
Yep.
damn them.
Well, there's a lot of lack of confidence in our electoral systems nowadays, whether that's polling data, whether that's actual voter cast electoral ballots, or whether it's individual party voting. We saw some manipulation by the Democratic National Committee in the 2016 election, which should have everyone skeptical of their commitment to honesty and integrity.
Yeah.
So right now, 2018, this is the time for them to make up for some of those past grievances and to get people to come back to the party. And they do that by being above board and exceptionally transparent. I'm not really sure that they're doing that, though.
It just seems like games from both sides manipulating, just completely all around. Like,
It's bullshit.
this is bullshit, bro. Just bullshit.
Well, good news. The Republican committee that was investigating the issue of Russian collusion concluded that there was none. So we're in good shape.
Oh,
So all of those meetings between Donald Trump's kids and Russians, the fact that they tried to set up back channels, which are ways to communicate that the United States government doesn't know about, the fact that they took meetings and that Donald Trump encouraged WikiLeaks to release information on his campaign rival just weeks before the campaign itself, before the vote. And how about that he paid, or his lawyer paid $130,000 to stifle an adult film actress who says that they had a relationship, Donald and she, just days before votes were to be cast. And none of those were, paid attention to by the House Republicans, although the intelligence community certainly paid attention to them.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, damn, she's not as hot as Melania, is she?
I think that's what they thought.
No, nobody.
I'm not sure
Nobody even thought about it. Everybody was like, "Oh." The thoughts went to other places.
And at one point too, he said he like publicly asked the Russians to try to figure out what happened to the emails from Hillary. And I heard somebody in a discussion say, like, if him stating that in any way, if that was found like in an email at some point or whatever, let alone stating it just blatantly publicly like that.
Show some sort of
that's
collusion.
That's kind of confirmation of that connection too, and that whole in conjunction with that whole long list of stuff that Rick just went over.
Well, let's add to that the fact that he asked for Hillary Clinton to be jailed before the election. Remember his chanting of "lock her up, lock her up, lock her up." Remember that he agreed or offered to pay the legal bills of attendees at his rally if they would go kick the butt of some of the anti-Trump protesters out there.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh! Those are just qualifying things. Then recently, in regards to the gun rights issue, he said we should go in, the police should seize somebody's gun, and then we'll worry about their constitutional rights later. Everybody's jaw dropped. Are you just saying that you want the state to ignore the Constitution, take action without legal justification, and later on you just make some shit up?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Or the most recent one that I just seen was where he was like, "Hey, we should just be like China, and just death penalty for drug dealers."
Philippines.
Yeah.
Duterte or whatever.
Yep.
So, and then of course, what's the dude's name? Tillerson. Shit canned right after he kind of criticizes what the Russians are doing. No, I don't think Michael's on it yet, is he?
Secretary of State, Rick. Yep.
He might be being rebuffed.
Don't be looking at me, man.
Michael.
It's not my fault. Look at you can see it for yourself. Yeah, but
So
Russians they don't have weed either.
They don't have what either? Wood?
They don't have wood.
Weed.
Oh, weed.
Oh, they don't.
This is a weed show.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go ahead with this.
Go ahead, Debra.
How much time do we have before break?
We're good.
About,
Okay, so
50.
I just received a call from a friend of mine, and I just told him I would not use his name. He's on the UAW Executive Committee. I'm not going to say which council. He just said there was a meeting downtown. UAW is going to send out its members in force to endorse Miles at the convention, and that they have told everybody their asses better be there. Everybody who's registered, they better be there. I don't know if they're going to issue an endorsement or not, but they're urging their members to vote for Miles. Now, that's the news I just got. I mean, that's why I left the room just now.
Well, this Giants is what we've been talking about today, because I think most of us realize that one of the big power players in the Michigan Democratic Party is the union, the UAW, the Teamsters, organized labor. So if we talk about the machine that is the Michigan Democratic Party deciding they're going to endorse somebody, that labor pool is a big part of that machine.
Well, my friend said he argued against it, and he told them that, he knows that Dana's the better choice, and I don't know.
Hopefully there'll be some dissension.
Well, there is
obviously
dissension right there, but yeah, it's late in the game to try and organize this, but I would have to think that the people in the UAW who are already party members were probably already going to this convention, because those would be the executive council. They're already active anyway. They're already, so I don't think they're calling any new people out there, but just for them to be telling their members things like this, it starts a different discussion.
And is it really that odd for them to wait to the last minute? I mean,
they normally
listen
don't
to all the
endorse in a
campaigning.
primary and something like this. They normally don't.
Right. So
a soft endorsement is what we're talking about then, right? You don't
Right.
put it in the paper, but you tell all your members.
Exactly. That's what he said. He said it doesn't look like they're going to issue an official endorsement, but they're telling their members, you better be at that convention. You better be voting Miles.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I wish it was not the case, but this just gives us a greater motivation to try really hard to get Dana elected at that conference. I have to say, typically we try not to be so definitive in our choice of candidates. When it comes to the gubernatorial campaign, I favor Whitmer, but I also recognize Abu Sayed, El-Sayed has got some good points too. I mean, there's lots of things to consider, but in this particular race, considering Patrick Miles' history and considering Dana Nessel's history, the entire cannabis community seems united behind Dana. And that's 300,000 registered patients in the state system.
Exactly.
And probably four to five times that unregistered regular users that are still paying attention to what's going on.
Well, that's what my friend said. He told the rest of the council. He said, there's a cannabis community out there, and they are backing Dana, and there's hundreds and thousands of them. So there are. If we would have such clout if all these we've said this before, Rick, you know that if all these patients and caregivers got together, we would have licked this in the bud a long time ago.
Yep. But I think every social justice group does the same thing too.
True. Yeah.
And Deb, you've been involved in politics longer than I have. I can tell you that your experience is going to be greater than me. But it just seems like from my outsiders or from my historical perspective, every group that wants social justice reform suffers from a lack of participation.
Absolutely.
And the people most affected by it.
Absolutely. We see it over and over and over again. It's a shame. Because people have the power. I don't want to quote Patti Smith. People have the power, and they just don't use it. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of disincentives nowadays, too. If you take a look at what we've seen in news media of protests, what have we seen? We see tear gas and riot police at protests. We see anti-protesters creating problems for peaceful protesters. So an average person that might consider going out to something to express themselves might be discouraged from doing that because they think there could be violence there. Yeah. It used to be people were encouraged to go out and express their voice, but there are so many ways in which you're being criticized for it nowadays. Look at people being punished by their companies for things they say on Facebook. Now, if you're a racist, you deserve what you get. Okay, if you're a bigot, if you denigrate women, you deserve what you get. But man, there are so many incentives for people to hide what they do now instead of being open about who they are. The LGBT community and the medical marijuana community seem to be the only ones that I can tell where people are actually more likely to come out in 2018 and say that they're a member of that group than at any time ever before. A lot of other people are shrinking away. You got nothing?
No, I do. I was trying to.
I'm chewing a Sour Patch Kid.
I was going to go into Jim Carrey. It's like talking about the bedrock of his life eroding.
I just figured Jamie was practicing his standing dog or whatever that yoga move was.
He is, and he's magnificent.
He is doing the standing dog. He's standing on his dog bone right now, right on the corner.
Little beads of sweat on his upper lip.
I'm bummed out by this news of the UAW. Although I'm kind of like to think that even if a member gets called and they say you better be there, I mean, is there like what's the fear if they don't vote for Miles?
What's the penalty?
Well, the voting is there's no penalty. There's no privacy in the voting. It's raise your hand.
Everybody can see how you vote.
Exactly.
But
like I say, I don't think that that's going to call anybody extra to this convention. I think that the people who were already going from the UAW. They've just been told now how to vote. Now, whether they do that or not, UAW is famous for not following what their leaders have told them to do.
Good.
So you know that.
Very true.
Yeah,
Very
so
true.
the rank and file, so who knows? We'll see what happens. There's not going to be a
rank and file are heads, and they hopefully if they're paying attention, they kind of know which way to go.
If it's going to be the rank and file, I have to think that the people who are attending the convention are like executive committee members. That the rank and file really aren't coming out to these type of conventions. This is
so we need to
waste
speak
your
to
Saturday
them.
and stuff. Yeah.
Sunday.
You get the message out to the UAW.
Well, here's the problem with that is it's very difficult to come out in favor of cannabis when you're working on the line in a factory and they might random drug test you if they're aware that you're speaking out of this, so people are afraid to do that in these type of jobs. I know you can roll your eyes, but dude, it's the truth.
I'm rolling them at the bullshit.
I know it's bullshit, but it's the truth, and people are supporting families and they can't subject themselves to that. I understand that.
Yeah,
I understand that.
up,
Everybody is in agreement with us, but They're afraid.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame them.
I don't blame them.
I don't blame them. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do, Razor Ray?
Smoke a lot of weed.
He's already doing it.
Sweet.
I'm gonna
He's
meditate.
being Ray and he's smoking and he's watching Jamie contort himself.
I'm watching Jamie contort his fingers. He's contorting his
That's
fingers.
just so not a pretty picture, man.
Jamie's doing this show through text message.
Now my thumb is in my plum.
I'm his plum. Hashtag no homo. I hashtag no homo. Yeah, right there. We're cool.
I'm the
I
only one
think
that
I'm going to
doesn't get
step
anything.
outside alone now.
Are you
guys.
sure?
I'll leave the three of you in
Come
here.
on. Don't leave us all alone.
Hashtag still suspicious. Yeah.
Hashtag suspicious.
Oh,
Like
my.
hashtag you ain't hetero.
No, what did we say?
You guys think-
What
you
was
guys
it?
grab a break or what?
Metro Spliffy.
What?
This is the
We could-
new thing, Rick. It's Metro Spliffy. That's
we
what
could
we
grab
are.
a break, come back, do the news, hopefully get Michael back online.
Yeah, where's
We
Chip?
gotta eat so loud. All right, that's Razor Ray eating so damn loud in the microphone.
He's doing
everybody.
something.
That's Ray
It's
and
delicious.
Jamie doing that. What the hell was that called?
I'm gonna say
Something
thanks to Deb.
deflexing lotus. That's what's
feel it.
going on.
Smacking your lip.
Yeah.
And they talk about 95% of the show, so I can't even mute the mic.
Oh man. I don't know what to say.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, is it?
We've got a color.
No
Is
way.
it Michael?
Hopefully.
Right in time for the break, Michael.
That's all right.
Hey Mike.
This is the Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Who do we got calling here?
This is Michael Camorran. I'm an attorney.
All right, Michael. We were worried. We were concerned. We've had all this topic going on, and you weren't with us.
What's up,
Are you
buddy?
guys being raided right now? There's so much joy. There was so much joy that a lawyer was calling. I think like there's some kind of like police presence there or something.
No,
Okay.
no. We
No, we're
we
good.
always have to know that you're with us, Michael. It keeps us.
I'm always with you.
And we just got some bad news.
Yeah.
Potentially, Deb was informed by somebody in the UAW ranks that leadership is getting together and directing their constituents to vote for Miles Jr.
Yeah, Michael, I got a call about 15 minutes ago from a friend of mine on the UAW council, one of the UAW councils. He said they had a meeting downtown, and they were told that they are not issuing an endorsement at this time, but they want every member who is going to the convention, and they've told them, their asses all better be there who are registered, and they're supposed to be voting for Miles. And it was quite a shock. I left the room and took the call. He said he spoke for Dana. He spoke up for Dana. He said, but that's what they were told to do. And I also got a piece of campaign literature from Miles today in the mail that called for everybody to come to convention and vote for him. And that's the first time we've seen that. But
I think those two things together really indicate how afraid they are
He's
of
scared.
the cannabis vote.
definitely,
Combine
he's
that with Patrick Miles' recent reversal of position, we've got lots of evidence to show that they respect/fear what we can do with the ballot box.
he's terrified, Rick, because they thought he was a shoo-in. They thought they're bringing in this good-looking minority dude, you know, and everybody's going to be, oh man, this is the dude, this is the guy, and boom, we knocked him back, and he's running scared. And so, yeah, I mean, these are typical political tactics, but I don't know, Michael. What do you think on this UAW thing?
Well, just first addressing the Miles thing. We talked a little bit about this last week. It's hubris that this guy thinks he can just, like the wind just blew by and I decided to change my mind.
Right.
And no one's going to, realize that he's been totally out of the loop, has not been able to speak intelligently on this topic at all, and his rethinking of it is just his arrogance that he was the chosen one for this. It seems like he can just say anything, and now, oh, by the way, now I'm up to speed on things, and I'm the right candidate. It's false.
It's
disingenuous
revisionistic.
and,
It's revisionistic history. We know what he really is. We know what he really said. We know what he did.
It's disappointing because it adds to the next question, which is how in the world could this so-called Democratic Party be considering this at this time, right? How could any aspects of it still be letting him believe that he's the candidate of choice? He's performed awful. The idea that the Democratic Party anywhere is still holding on, the union, that vote, that's a disturbing message.
Yes, I'm very disturbed.
Well, it tells you that somewhere in the ranks of the Democratic Party, he's still preferred, right? Because getting the union to go in that direction means that's somewhere within the party, and that's what's disturbing. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, today's politics, I think it's fair to say, the parties have been the letdown. The candidates, you know, it's hard to get excited about the parties, but the candidates, here and there we have exciting candidates that are, you know.
Yeah, you would think they
more
learned a
aligned with-
lesson from the last election. You would think that the party would understand. You know, they're going to fuck this up, Michael. They're going to fuck this up.
So the good news out of this discussion, though, was Deb was aware of historically the people not necessarily
Yeah.
following
That
the
is
orders
historic,
of
yeah.
the leadership.
The UAW rank and file has been historic, Michael. You know this in ignoring what their leadership has said or going against what everybody else wants them to do. We see that constantly with them, you know, so we'll see how this plays out.
It happens. Yeah.
Yeah,
it
we'll
does
see.
happen.
Yeah, we'll see how this plays out. But they seem to be afraid. Oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when I'm curious to Rick's experience in the UAW family, like how, you know, the party line that will be required of those workers, right? I mean, they'll take it out on you at work, you know, and it's the union is, you know, its power comes from the unity of it, right? So
Well-
you have people that are speaking out, talking out against it. At times, it can have a negative effect, but this particular union has done that. I agree, historically, and it's just going to be total chaos. I think the biggest challenge is going to be getting people to the convention.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. Yeah.
And there are buses,
what do you think?
buses and other types of transportation
Yeah,
being
whoever
organized. right?
shows up in force is going to rule the day. So we have to make sure that our people are out there.
And as Deb observed, Patrick Miles is for the very first time encouraging people to get there. I mean,
Yes.
obviously, maybe he's done that in personal appearances, but not in campaign
No,
literature.
no,
So,
'cause I get all his
he
crap.
even seems to feel like there's a sense of urgency now.
Yeah, I get all his crap. He's scared. He's definitely scared. We shook his tree, but it's not good enough. We all have to be there, and we all have to make sure that everybody we know who is registered. What do we have? One more day now? Who's not registered? Who knows somebody who's not
It's the
registered? Get
13th.
out there and do it.
Chris registered last week, and Chris just
did,
joined us.
right in front of us.
by
He
the way.
registered. Yeah.
Part of the
I mean,
crew.
listen, as long as we're talking about Patrick Miles, let's finish off the conversation, because while he may have been revised his position on it, let's just talk for a second about what his position was and how outrageous and lacking in knowledge it was. Okay? Just when it was important for him to speak on it,
Right.
he said the following. One is that he knows of people that have eaten the ear of a gummy bear and hallucinated. Okay,
Yes.
that today's marijuana is not your Woodstock marijuana, and the best thing to do is to wait for the federal government to take a position on this. Well, the federal government's taking a position on it. It's based on a lie. Everything that he said when asked on this particular issue is it's not even misinformed. It's like, you know, it's part of the propaganda campaign that antagonizes our community, that antagonizes medical marijuana and legalization. It's the hardline reefer madness idea that the federal government's position on marijuana is okay, you know, when it's caused more divide in our country and more, you know, destruction in families than any other decision that's been made in our government in recent years. There's several. I shouldn't. But anyways, that's Patrick Miles, and that's why people need to realize and wake up that he is a joke and not the candidate for this particular position. And it is an awesome position, and I think the most important thing is for people to realize that it doesn't matter so much if, you know, marijuana becomes legalized unless it's enforced, and the agency that's enforcing it is aware of what the law is and does it genuinely and with the intention of the voters to stop arresting people for marijuana. I mean, we've learned from the MMA that the combination of passing a law that's supposed to be protective and insulate people, immunize people from arrest and prosecution, doesn't mean anything if the law enforcement community that enforces those laws ignores it. How could this be? Well, we've got 10 years of devastation and destruction to show that. So the critical point is that combination, you know, alone legalization passing is not enough. We need the leading law enforcement agent. This is a historic moment in Michigan where we can actually change that entire perspective by law enforcement, by their leader, who will create policies, write attorney general opinions, and change and educate and direct attention and resources to crimes, not criminalization for a plant. All right, so I got that off my chest.
Yeah, he was.
So,
He was.
Michael, you submitted. Go ahead, Jamie.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
You submitted a whole bunch of applications for new conditions to be added to the Michigan Medical Marijuana Program. Congratulations to you for that. Can you tell us a little bit about how many you submitted, what the application status is now, and whether or not there's been a meeting announced of the Medical Marijuana Review Board?
Certainly. I appreciate you recognizing me on that, Rick. I would say Chad, of course, is very deeply involved in it. Also, Ben, who works with us as well. The support for the MMMA and the personnel from there also contributed greatly with all the studies that were submitted along with the petitions. But to answer your question, we submitted 115 new conditions to be approved, or at least submitted to the board for discussion and determination they should be added to the list. Not all of them were accepted. Many were sent back. I would say that of the ones that we had submitted and the ones that were approved and are going to be sent forward, there were subcategories for many of them. For example, arthritis, you've got, give me one of them.
Ones that were accepted.
No, there's subcategories.
I hear T.
Rejected. Brain injuries associated with, concussions, digestive tract conditions, as opposed to just like IBS. Well, IBS would be one of them, as opposed to like ulcers or colitis. Colitis is a diagnosis, right? But you have all these other subcategories of IBS or gastrointestinal issues. Many of those were sent back asking for more, but several were submitted. I think it's 40, 45 were submitted, which include autism. It's going to get a new hearing. Parkinson's, pain, not just severe and chronic pain. We've got arthritis, panic disorder, anxiety, depression.
What about opiate dependency?
They rejected that. There's 3 or 4 studies that have come out since then. I think even more so. But I don't know. We're gonna keep on with that as well. But again, the options of pain and as opposed to severe and chronic pain, kind of open the door. You're right. I agree with you 100%. Anyway, it's not gonna. Yes, we got to get back at that when that one is.
So you're going to challenge some of these that were returned and or add more information or whatever the situation calls for.
Right. Right. Just because they told us no doesn't mean we're giving up.
Right.
And we will be resubmitting and or filing a lawsuit like we had to do with the autism the first go around. I would say this though, and I don't want to. I got the impression because they have changed the department administration structure. Now they've got this whole new department at law that's handling both the MMMA and the MMFLA.
Bummer.
And bummer. Right. But I'm sorry. But that agency that was, they seemed to take more accountability and give the impression that they were trying to work with us and be in communication, and actually contacted us on Sunday. I think they sent an email on Sunday telling us that the approved petitions have been sent to the board for review, and that they were going to be scheduling these hearings. I think they want to do it by April 13th or something, which is ridiculous, and I don't even know if everyone can be available. But they're moving on it, so opportunities for people to come testify, have their voices heard, give their stories about cannabis affected their condition, and it's in the very near future. And the second we get some new dates, we're going to try to get those disseminated into our community. I can also say that of the individuals we know.
Michael, how many of those petitions did they actually accept? How many will they be reviewing?
About 25.
Excellent. 25 different ailments or named illnesses to be considered by the Medical Marijuana Review Board then.
That's correct.
And there will be more added too if everything goes well. Sounds like.
Outstanding work. Very good.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting. I'll tell you we're in an area that is unique. I mean, unique to Michigan so far is all the psychological ailments. Depression, anxiety, which were approved in California. I can't tell you the number of people, like, when I interact with them, if, the patient, their, status comes up, and, from the lawyer's perspective, I'm asking them questions that we may need for court, and they'll say anxiety or depression. I'm like, that's not, but they're speaking about what helps them, you know what I mean? So it's interesting, and there's, I don't know, I think we're going to get a lot of, like, pushback on that, but who knows? And, another interesting issue is this, the director of the medical department of Michigan, Eden Wells, who was so antagonistic to us, as all of you remember, the first go-around, the autism go-around, steadfastly voting no on every chance she could, is currently being, is under felony charges and being prosecuted in the Flint District Court right now over the, water crisis where she lied.
How ironic.
Lied to investigators. Yeah, and
she's a puppet.
Yeah, no doubt.
And what's interesting is that she's accused of withholding treatments for the citizens. Like the same idea, like why she wouldn't approve autism, like withholding the, approval of it, voting against it.
Oh my God.
And they part of her case against her was they're admitting these emails where she was making comments of, "Don't you know who pays your salary?" And
so
things like that. It was really, really quite offensive.
Children
She's
suffered.
Still on the board as far as I know.
But children suffered because of her actions and her neglect, right? This is what they're saying.
Absolutely, she's being prosecuted for lying to investigators and failing to disclose the.
That's right. Children suffered because of people like this.
Now,
I think it goes a lot deeper than just the people that were blamed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She clearly is one of the responsible. I wouldn't, and she's going to be the one taking a lot of the heat for this. I'm sure there's others that are equally, that somehow avoided the shooty reach here. But nevertheless, it's not pretty for those citizens and how terrible they handle it. And my point was that she's still on the board, and we're probably going to have to address that in some way. Maybe she'll just recuse herself or something. But she's not good for people.
And is Dave Brogren and Dr. Crocker still on that board as well? Is it the same board?
Yes, they are. We understand through the grapevine that they received the documentation that was forwarded from Lara as board members and have begun reviewing it. So the process is working. In other words, we're not going through the same, because someone filed something in the past, they're not using as a reason to reject, right? When we filed the autism, that's the reason that they use. So that's a step in a positive direction.
Boy, talk about a step in a positive direction. We're used to dealing with Mike Zimmer and Steve Arwood, both former directors of Lara, both of which, gave you a very difficult time and other applicants to the MMMA for new qualifying conditions. It really does seem like it's a change in attitude at the top, doesn't it, Michael?
It does. I think it's a little early to, commit to that yet. But from just dealing with them from years past,
well, watching how they went
program itself, and especially I think Shelley Egerton has been quite a champion, in terms of transparency, right, Rick? I mean, she shows up at all the events. She's spoken at a lot of them. She's offered her. Yep. I think she spoke at one of the marijuana law section events. And they're available for questions. They get, it's like, so it's a new order there, so to speak. And Shelley was quite open about. I mean, I took their position being like, look, the law's been passed, and we're going to do everything we can to implement it. And we've got this new department, and we've got funded for it. So it wasn't politics. It wasn't because it's marijuana. That's been my impression. What happens after that, we will soon find out. But the administrative dealings have been a little user-friendly and seemingly more genuine to their, their oath of service in office.
Nice. I agree with that. They've gone out of their way to try to learn about this and to create some kind of functional system from what they need to do, and what they're charged with doing with getting this thing implemented. And if one of those other guys that Rick mentioned were there, we wouldn't be seeing this kind of progress, I don't think, at all. But
no, and if you look at the number of updates they put out too, it's a new different level of communication.
Hey, so let's.
We may not like it, but they are. I would agree that the effort is there, and there seems to be a new order to, how they're doing their business, so to speak, which is positive.
I agree.
It's a little late. Let a carnage up, that's taken place, unfortunately, but some good got to come out of bad.
Yeah, so we're gonna get a couple more minutes in here, but let's spend that time going over what's going to happen this month. Michael, you're making lots of appearances, and starting tonight at the Plymouth Democratic Club, there's going to be a panel discussion, and you were participating in that. That's at the Plymouth District Library, starting at 7 o'clock. I think the actual panel discussion starts at 7:30. And I think we know everybody's going to be on the panel. I'll be involved in that. Zara Abbas, who's regular guest on this show and has been on Planet Green Cheese a few times as well, will be there. Harley Sherman, the CPA, will be there.
Can I implement a warning without deterring anybody from going?
Right.
What's that?
The Plymouth Public Library is attached to a police station.
That's okay.
Okay, that's
Just the same building.
I feel
I just wanted to say it.
we can feel much safer there then.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for the warning.
Just in case.
It's not, yeah,
We'll be protected by peace officers in
safe.
case anything happens.
Extra safe in the parking lot.
And then tomorrow night, really important. There's associated with a lot of this great work that Michael's been talking about with his law firm and the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association and others. Is a PAC called Putting Patients First, and tomorrow is a fundraiser for that PAC, and it's also an opportunity, a last-ditch effort to get signed up for the party, as we've been discussing all day, to be able to be eligible to make it to the convention and help endorse Dana. So you can come out there and take care of all that stuff. Help out in many different ways in one fell swoop. Yep. And it's going to be at Moe's. Michael, do you have the information right there by chance?
Yes. Let me have the director of the PAC, Steve Miller, jump in here on this.
Okay.
Oh, Steve-O.
Esteban.
Esteban Miller. Welcome, Esteban.
Esteban Miller.
My Spanish name that I know go by. Okay, so it's going to be the event tomorrow night from 6:30 to 9:30 at Moe's Bar Shop and Grill. It'll be located in downtown Howell at 106 East Grand River Avenue. We're gonna provide the food there. And there'll be a cash bar, Razor Ray on guitar.
Ow! Yeah.
And you know what? There might be Razor Ray, and I had some discussion earlier. There might be Steve Miller may be in the house doing a rendition of Space Cowboy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the Joker.
The Joker, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Steve Miller.
That's worth going. That's worth going for that
It's
alone.
not
Yeah, you want to
Esteban
be
Miller,
there
Steve
to you want to be there
I'm really
to,
fucking
to
confused
witness
now, though.
RazorRay and Steve Miller
Steve Miller.
doing the Joker
Fly like an eagle.
in Howell.
Wait, what the fuck is happening right now?
So we need to get as many people out there as possible so we have a great event.
Yes.
Everybody knows we put on great events. So.
Here's something that's important for those that are listening in the Livingston County area. They have a tremendously strong Republican
Presence.
hot, base there. And as the convention goes, there's some, proportionality impact that the county that is voting at the convention has. And of the persons that are, registered in Livingston County, very few to the Democratic Party. So we are literally going out there to sign these people up as party members. And by signing up, we are going to have a bus for them to leave out of the two park and rides that Livingston County is famous for, both D19 and Spencer Road, which I meet at quite frequently with Dewey. But from those park and rides, we will be providing transportation to the convention for those Livingston County voters that want to come participate in this democratic process and help elect Dana Nessel as the next Attorney General.
And that's how
that's
you get
why
it
we're
done.
doing. We're going directly to Livingston County. We're even going to try to get Judge Teresa Brennan to come with us. Just kidding. But we are looking forward to that, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I don't know if you might know, Steve, this place is called Moe's Bar and Bar, right? Moe's
Bar.
Shop.
Bar
Because
shop.
it's a bar and a barber shop.
Right.
So anyone needs a haircut,
I'm getting there.
Is
early
Chad
with my
getting a
haircut.
haircut? Is
There you
Chad getting a haircut? Chad's getting one?
Chad says no.
Oh.
You know that Chad measures the value of a man by the length of his hair. He cannot get his hair cut.
I'll put up $500 if Chad will shave his head tomorrow night at the event.
Wow. Oh, that's a good thing we got
Holy
going.
shit.
Let's try to, I'll tell you what, I'll put up
Whoa.
$1,500.
And somebody will
What
put up.
the-
Somebody,
Whoa.
That's
Yeah.
fuck.
Never gonna
somebody should put up a couple thousand
I
to
don't
make
know.
it not happen.
Damn,
Somebody's getting rich.
So we're also going to have a 50-50 raffle going on to help fund these things we can do as the Super PAC. It'll be a 50-50 raffle that's fun. And we'll also be doing a either raffle or silent auction for a chainsaw for those growers that grow really big plants.
Wow.
There you go.
That's great.
Very, very cool. Sounds like a great
Well, we
event.
can cut
Hopefully
we
get a lot
can
of
cut
people out
Chad's hair with that chainsaw.
Oh.
there. Take the first couple layers off with it.
Right, a little off the top.
Yeah.
There you go. That'd be worth
Dana's
the
gonna
money.
be there.
That show.
Dana's planning.
Dana's going to be there speaking.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get to meet her and
That is awesome.
hear her story.
Great.
And then March 23rd, Dana Nessel and Michael Camoran will be at Bay City, 300 Center Avenue at the MMLE Happy Life offices for our networking meeting, our monthly networking meeting, and that will be quite awesome as well.
That sounds great.
You can go to MichiganMarijuanaLicensingExperts.com and reserve a spot for that.
Everybody go check
If you're
that out, Bay
interested.
City.
Michigan what?
MichiganMarijuanaLicensingExperts.com.
How do you spell licensing? Is that L-I?
Just put an MMLE and it
Oh, there
comes
we
up
go.
first.
Okay, cool. That'll work. That's so much easier.
I'm going to go.
But those have been really good so far, and this will be really nice for all the people who have been involved in that. It's really good turnout. We provide food also, and we'll hear about what's going on, and Dana will express to this industry group why it's important to have her at the helm when the time comes. Looking forward to it. So there's a lot of stuff going on this month, but immediately tomorrow night is last-ditch effort to get everybody signed up, and then a ride to help out at the convention. So that's one to push for right now. That's tomorrow night at Moe's Bar Bar.
We have not determined whether it was a magic bus or not. There's been much discussion about that. Whether it's going to be the magic bus. Possibly.
Sometimes they can be. The smaller ones for sure
Possibly.
usually can be. But
Yeah, it's a possibility.
Listen, I just want to listen for those that are interested in the Dana event and those kind of things. We didn't mention her recent endorsements lately, which were the Michigan Teachers Union, right? Education.
MEA.
The MEA.
Which is huge.
Yeah, it's big.
And of course, the MI Legalize endorsed her recently, which was expected, late but still supportive as it would be.
To me, it speaks volumes.
It
of the
was good
teachers.
timing too. It was right after the pandering of Miles.
But doesn't it speak volumes to me that the teachers union endorses us endorses Dana? Because that's going to be the argument against this. Is what about the children? What about the children? Well, the teachers are with us, so what about the children?
And Dave Saginaw, reported earlier that a utilities organization union has also endorsed Dana.
I saw it on here earlier. Yeah, it was
utility workers.
Right.
Good
Yep.
thing.
But the teachers union is
And
huge.
I think that organization, the MEA is going to vote as their, as more close to the endorsements than the
union.
union.
Than the UAW. Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah. So anything else you want to add, Michael? Or anybody else in the area?
What you got?
What's up, Esteban? What's going on? Got anything new?
You got T-Pain and Chad.
Basta one.
Oh.
Basta uno.
Let's get some parting words of wisdom here, man.
Can we get
We're
it?
gonna
Tell us something.
Well, I just let's get everybody out to the event. I'm hyper focused on that right now. I want to have a good turnout, and looking forward to seeing everybody there. Get involved in the political action.
That is a good immediate focus. We got to get this done within the hours.
Yeah, get it done
People
sooner.
are no longer eligible and they can't be there to help out.
I also forgot to mention that in addition to Camoran Law sponsoring the event tomorrow night, Grow Green also sponsoring.
Right on.
That's
Hell yeah.
great.
Props out to Go Green.
Livingston County business.
Awesome
Bring
place.
out the Livingston County people.
Yep.
We all know Grow Green well. So
Oh, yeah.
come out and support.
Yep, that's another good one. Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks a lot, you guys, and I'll be seeing Michael and company in just a little while.
Yep,
at the
and
Plymouth District Library.
Yep, happy
DTP.
Yep, happy 313, by the way, too.
Yes, it is. It's
313
today.
That's right.
313 today.
313, Detroit holiday.
March 13th, Jamie.
All right.
You're like, I'm in 248.
I celebrate every day just in case there's something going on. All right, well, thanks a lot, you guys.
All right, guys.
We're going to take a
See
break
you
for a
later.
minute.
All right,
Jazz
tomorrow.
Cabbage Cafe.
See you
Thank you.
tomorrow.
See you tonight, man, and tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
And later on. And we'll take a break for a minute and come back with Rick and hear the news. We'll do a quick
We're
break.
going to have an awesome news break
Take
with Rick.
suspiciously just about long
Rick
enough to
must
smoke
be
a joint.
bursting,
I
must
just
be
saw being rolled
bursting
on the other side of the table.
With the news.
Jazz Cabbage.
Inconsistent that's over. I see your motives inside, decisions to hide. Back up, I'll take you on. Headstrong to take on anyone. I know that you are wrong. Headstrong, we're headstrong. Back up, I'll take you on. Headstrong to take on anyone. I know that you are wrong, and this is not where you belong. I won't give everything away. Jesus manifest. Your first impression's got to be your very best. I see you're full of shit, and that's alright. They say you're biggest who get through every night. Well, now that's over. I see your fantasy. You wanna make it a reality, babe, then go see inside of our heads, yeah. Well, now that's over. I see your motives inside, decisions to hide. Back up, I'll take you on. Headstrong to take on anyone. I know that you are wrong. Headstrong, we're headstrong. Back up, I'll take you on. Headstrong to take on anyone. I know that you are wrong, and this is not where you belong. You I won't give everything away. I know all about. I know all about. I know all about. I know all about your motives inside and your decision to hide. Back up, I'll take you on. Headstrong to take on anyone. I know that you are wrong. Headstrong, we're headstrong. Back up, I'll take you on. Headstrong to take on anyone. I know that you are wrong, and this is not where you belong. Where you belong. This is not where you belong.
You know,
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
We're still here with you. Well, some of us are. This is the
back.
Jazz Cabbage
We're
Cafe. It's another Tuesday, and we're still sitting here between 4 or 6 p.m. every single time. Our studio became a little bit fuller now that Chris has joined us.
It's warmer at least. I can tell you that.
And our line here has grown a little less full, as I believe Michael Camorn has left us.
yeah, they might still be listening though, because they
It's all right. Thank you
they
very
like
much
to tune
for
in
calling
from time to
man.
time, as
Yeah,
we like to
wonderful.
listen to Planet Green Trees, which we should have mentioned a little bit more. There's a great
Yeah.
show, Planet Green Trees, very
Thursday
long
night.
running, and it is probably the most important, most longest running archive of the historical account of what's gone on here in Michigan with medical marijuana and other marijuana related things
Thursday night with
for
Michael
years,
Camorn.
and a lot of great discussions.
Where's that, Han?
Planet Green
Planet
Trees.
Green Trees,
Of
8 to
course,
10. Actually, they're
you've
starting
been
at
on
7:30 now.
PlanetGreenTrees.com. Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, they've been starting, but it's music. But yeah, I mean, you'll get to hear the great Michael Camorn again. Chad Carzon.
Had so much fun.
They
Oh, various
good
people.
guests and
Good guests, good people, good show.
good discussions
time
on
last time,
pertinent
I think.
issues.
Large audience.
Yeah. A lot of people hanging out, expressing some.
It's a very good,
views.
informative time. And we should have talked about that a little bit more. But now we are.
No, we are.
Now we
'cause
have.
we're back.
Oh, is that Rick again?
And so Rick should
I
be,
think so.
hopefully...
I thought I heard his mustache.
What's new, Rick? Or should we say what's new?
Well, what's news, Rick?
Are you ready for the news? Are you all ready?
We're all newsy.
Oh, hell yeah.
We're
So
retro
ready for your
newsy.
news, bro.
Okay, then. Well, all right, everybody. It's March 13th, 2018. I am Rick Thompson, and this is the Cannabis News. So what happens when one township opts to participate in the MMFLA marijuana business program and its surrounding communities do not? That township gets paid. That's what. We spent a lot of time talking about Leone Township near Jackson due to some pocketing of license fees by city officials. But this is a better kind of story. Leone Township has approved 38 medical marijuana facilities to date, according to an article from MLive dated today. Despite the fact that provisioning centers, also known as dispensaries, can't be located within a shocking 2,640 feet of a school or 1,000 feet from a daycare center or church per township ordinance, all 15 of the available licenses for retail sale of medical marijuana have been applied for. Of the 38 facilities approved by Leone Township, those 15 provisioning centers are joined by 16 cultivation facilities, 6 processors, and 1 secure transporter. Leone and Parma Townships are the only municipalities in Jackson County listed in the Michigan MMFLA database as approving medical marijuana businesses. From our state's capital, the Lansing State Journal tells us that a judge has denied the city's motion to dismiss a lawsuit from a group challenging Lansing's medical marijuana ordinance. Ingham County Circuit Court Judge James Jamo submitted an order last week that rejected most of the city's arguments in response to a campaign called Let Lansing Vote. The group sued the city in November 2017, alleging City Clerk Chris Swope had improperly invalidated a petition containing signatures needed to suspend the marijuana ordinance. In a November 1st news release, the city clerk's office said Let Lansing Vote petitions was 26 signatures short of the number necessary to represent the required 5% of the city's registered voters. But then they modified the number last month to show that the petition was 46 signatures short. But Let Lansing Vote alleges the clerk improperly threw out 300 signatures, which would have been more than enough to meet the number required for a valid petition. The city of Lansing says the clerk has discretion to determine whether signatures are admissible, but Judge Jamo questioned the strength of the city's argument and allowed Let Lansing Vote to amend its complaint against the city to prove that the clerk acted arbitrarily or in bad faith when he threw out those 300 signatures. Not surprisingly, spokespersons for Let Lansing Vote say they do plan to respond with additional filings to show arbitrary action on the part of Clerk Swope. Now, the quote on this next article reads, "We have never seen anything like it." From CivilizedLife.com, we have a report from the Upper Peninsula. Last year, Northern Michigan University became the first in the country to offer a major in medicinal plant chemistry that allows students to study the science of cannabis. The marijuana major is now proving to be one of the most popular offered at Northern Michigan University, having received an unheard of amount of applications for a new program. Quote, for the fall of 2018, we have 699 applications for a new program.
That's awesome.
These numbers are so huge, we've never seen anything like this, end quote, said Derek Hall, an NMU spokesperson, about the program's extraordinarily high interest. And these applications come from across 46 different states, and even from outside the U.S. Dr. Mark Paulson of the chemistry department head at Northern Michigan University says the influx of new students is something they're excited about. Paul admits there will be some challenges, including lab space. Now, things in Adrian, Michigan may be getting a little greener, too. From the Daily Telegram, if Highwire Farms is successful in its plans, Adrian could become home to a group of medical marijuana facilities. Highwire presented a proposal Monday to the Adrian City Commission to purchase 30 acres of land from the city to make their plan happen. They'd like to create that micro-business style operation, including cultivation, processing, and retail businesses grouped together. The plan would include 15,000 square foot hybrid greenhouse and a 5,000 square foot head house for drying, trimming, storage, and office space, including a clean and compliant medical processing laboratory of about 3,000 square feet, and about $500,000 worth of machines and equipment. Sure. And lastly, Highwire would put in a 2,000 square foot provisioning center. Now, they also would offer a leafy greens hydroponic farm, which would be a 5,000 square foot hybrid greenhouse for harvesting, packaging, storage, and office space to produce lettuce, herbs, and microgreens for local restaurants and grocery stores. Total investment into Adrian would be around $2 million.
Wow.
And right along that same theme, the Battle Creek Unlimited Board recently approved plans for a 100-acre section of undeveloped land in the northwest corner of a park to be set aside as a campus devoted to companies involved in the growth, testing, packaging, and distribution of medical marijuana in the Fort Custer Industrial Park area. That sprawling 3,000-acre industrial park is home to more than 80 companies and 13,000 employees, including 18 companies from Japan and firms from Canada, Denmark, Germany, and Austria. On Wednesday, a deal was struck between German-based BASF Group, the worldwide chemical giant, and Tokyo-based Todokoigo Corp. to form a joint venture located in the park, placing Michigan cannabis companies side by side with some of the world's most recognizable corporate names. And folks, that's the cannabis news for today, March 13th, 2018. I'm Rick Thompson. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Stuff's happening. Things are starting to progress.
So what do we like to hear most? We love to hear that Northern Michigan University story, right?
That is crazy good.
I'm kind of partial to the fact that some places are going to be opening in Leone.
Yeah, that sounds fun, too.
That's very cool.
Just hearing all of this, it's just everything seems normalized, and we're moving ahead. This is great.
And I just also coincidentally want to let people know that they should look out for a Happy Life in Leone
Better go up
in
and
the
check
in
out
the
Happy
in the
Life.
short weeks to come.
Sweet.
I'll say this, too. I mentioned that both Leone and Parma townships in Jackson County have authorized medical marijuana facilities, but what Parma's authorized is just so restrictive. In fact, I am right now looking at the document on the Licensing and Regulatory Affairs website, which lists all of the municipalities that have opted in and opted out. And for Jackson County, Parma only is going to allow, two growers of the Class C style, and one
1,500 plants.
processor, I think, and one of the secure transporters. No provisioning centers, no safety compliance facilities, no smaller growers. So Leone is the only place you can do decent work in the entire county of Jackson right now.
So Leone might be the place for some young entrepreneurs looking to do some business in, as far as what they're doing.
Get some money.
Yep.
It
Seems
costs
like
some money.
most of those licenses have already been claimed for provisioning centers there,
Yeah.
or at least they've been applied for. But boy, they don't put any limit on any of the others. So if you wanted to do a testing lab, or if you wanted to be a secure transporter, or any of the other named industries, it sure seems like you'd have an opportunity to submit and have a fair shot at it if you could find something in zoning. But remember, too, that any of the ancillary industries that support the MMFLA don't require all the rest of this crap, right? I mean, if you're supplying packaging, if you're supplying secured lock boxes for those secure transporters, if you are installing special retrofit van kits to convert regular vehicles into secure transporter compliant vehicles, any of those things could locate in those communities. And they'd love that stuff.
Right, or even being a company that does the transformation of a van to do something like that. Like,
Oh, yeah, conversion. Yeah.
Look, there's going to be lots of different
Many
industries
things.
that are available for this, and there'll be some things that are unique to Michigan because of the way that our law is written. I mean, there's just going to be so much opportunity. I appreciate the fact that a lot of caregivers are cut out of this deal, and we never tried this. We never wanted this. Jamie and I will tell you all day long how we fought against having caregivers removed from this language. But we got what we got. And it's, you may not like dinner, but you got to eat. So
It's a start, and as we discussed earlier, the department is helping to make something functional out of it, and things are actually getting started. So this is what we're going to roll with for now. The CRMLA and my legalized proposal expands on rights and abilities and markets and who can do what, and then we can keep on fighting and take it from there. And as Debra said, if we get the right people in the right positions, including Dana, we'll be in much better shape.
Sure, yeah.
But we can't just jump there. And as much as we talk about it a lot, there is a group out there that's trying to kind of make a leap right to the just repealing complete all laws on cannabis and
Which we all would
and letting it
endorse.
do its thing. Yeah.
Do it.
Those kind of understand the nature of cannabis and stuff wouldn't be too scared about it necessarily, but that's just not how it's going to go down. And it's a new thing for a lot of people. And And this is how we're going to get started with it. Go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
Another one of those things. No, you did great, and I like what you had to say. I'll say that, a lot of people have an ideal of what they think the world should be like, and I think to some degree we all agree with that. There shouldn't be this, there shouldn't be that, there shouldn't be robbery. We shouldn't have people ripping off seniors with scams, and there's a lot of things I would eliminate from the world if I was able to, but we can't. Same thing with cannabis law reform. We have to change the community. We have to change society one bite at a time. Sometimes we get a bigger bite than we do otherwise, but when I look at the reports from other states, I mean, it's not so great. There are states that don't allow flower for combustion. There are states that don't allow flower at all, CBD only states, and they call that a medical marijuana program. So,
we could be doing a lot worse.
We sure could. And our opportunities, it's like the sky's the limit. No one knows how big the Michigan market can be because we've never tested it. But we've had so many years to build up a market base, it's going to be...
And I don't particularly like how complex and costly it is to participate in this existing, like the licensing side of things. As Rick said, there's lots of opportunity as for employment or to be involved in ancillary businesses and things like that.
Right.
But and I'm not defending it because I think things could be a lot less restrictive and maybe even less regulated in some areas. But the reality is it could be a lot worse. There's a small group of people with a lot of money who are trying to control the entire thing, and that's the direction that it could have headed in. And some states have been really restrictive about it, like, I don't know, a few dispensaries for like the entire state and stuff like that. Wow. Huge, weighted applications with big money on the line. Try to get some of those coveted spots, and stuff like that. And just this way, there's an opportunity, at least for a lot of activity all over the place, and then to work on more as the places deciding not to opt in now. We'll see the activity, and in terms of as Rick was mentioning, that some places are not, as Parma is not allowing the provisioning center. They're allowing some of the other licenses, but they don't want the retail store there. Under the MI legalized CRMLA, the only way the locals would get revenue sharing is if they have the retail stores. So we'll solve some of those issues too for those places that don't have as convenient of access to the products. So this whole thing's going to roll out.
People are exposed to this. When people are exposed to it long term, when they see after a year or two regulated and licensed centers that are operating without problems in neighboring communities, they'll loosen right up. I think also, too, if legalization passes this fall and people recognize that being part of the MMFLA business is the gateway to getting into the legalization businesses, too, I think a lot of people will open up then.
Hey, what do you think, Rick, about the idea of, obviously now drones are doing a delivery service, doing delivery, like FedEx, I believe.
Somebody come and drop a pound on your porch.
Amazon has got a
Amazon, right?
Yeah, it's got a pilot program like on the West Coast someplace.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine doing that. Having a company that provided that.
Well, it means that like that way of delivering things was established and became a thing under certain circumstances. I don't know if it could deliver to any single place, but there could be many opportunities where there's enough space for a thing like that to come in and drop off a package or whatever.
Exactly.
And so if that gets done in the future, cannabis, along with any other thing that you need to send to somebody, should just be part of that system.
Any commodity can be moved around.
I would love to head that company, and I'd call it High On.
There you got it. To start one up.
You see,
start one up, right?
I think maybe call it
High
from above.
I like High On Delivery. Buzz from above could be the slogan. There we go. There's the campaign slogan. There we go.
This is a great idea. We shouldn't give this away.
Yeah, we should be talking about this with our attorneys.
Yeah.
Let's call Mike.
Well, get Michael back.
Get back, Mike. Let's Michael on the phone.
A lot of changes take place before that's a thing here, but that's a cool thing.
It's an idea.
It doesn't allow deliveries, right, Jamie? Can you confirm that?
I can confirm that, so that'd be the first thing. And but there's room. There's all types of room for evolving. But
and that's the language you left it.
What we have going on now is a start that needs improvement.
All right.
There's a lot of different interests out there and ways of looking at this in this state, and we have a bizarrely composed set of lawmakers too, and to be able to even get something functional through that thing was probably not likely. I kind of wish we just would have gone for the ballot stuff, mainly with a lot more resources. But anyway, this is what we got, and this is
it's a start.
It is a start, and we owe the department, a debt of gratitude, because it's because of them that they're making something functional out of this. I mean, they're actually doing some things that are really smart.
They're handling it professionally, as you would expect them to do, but then you would think they probably wouldn't, but they did.
And then understand, like, we look at this a certain way. There are people who would like to control the market, and people who hate this stuff that are also giving them pressure, too, and they got to deal with all of it as it goes along.
Right.
Yeah. They're just moving
I
ahead.
think we'd all point to things that we'd like to do differently, but as we mentioned a couple of times on this show, the group, including Director Edgerton of the Licensing and Regulatory Affairs and Director Andrew Brisboe of the Bureau of Medical Marijuana Regulation, have been very much better than the people we've dealt with before. We interviewed Director Brisboe, and I asked him to what he attributed the less hostile attitude at Lara, and he said, well, I'd like to think that we've never really been hostile, and I didn't challenge him on it, but, man, they really were. I mean, we've sat through some pretty disrespectful situations with licensing and regulatory affairs. And back when they were still Department of Community Health, Jamie, we had a hard time.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say, people get defensive when they're uncomfortable, they're not really sure of what their directive is or what their mission is, and that might have been part of the problem with them early on, and maybe they found their footing now, and things have gotten better.
It definitely has. I mentioned something similar to Shelley Edgerton herself at one of the business expos that put on by Howard and Howard Law Firm, and said we haven't had this type of obvious non-obstructionist approach, to our issue from the department in the past. And she said,
just be neutral.
She said, well, it's a new day, and just to rub it in on this a little bit. I mean, I've seen her at Shelley at the business expo in Vegas, learning about what's going on and stuff like that. There's reports from her discussing this issue with the group in Marquette and making the statement herself: we should be calling this cannabis and not marijuana,
right?
Which is a sign she's doing research. I mean,
and she's listening,
and it's making sense to her, and so we could be doing a lot worse. I mean, I agree there are criticisms left and right here, but we could be doing a lot worse, all things said. Things are actually getting up and rolling right now.
Right, exactly. Moving positively forward.
Yeah, and we can make changes. We can push changes through if needed.
Speaking of changes, we got 1 minute left. So what do you guys think, Jamie?
Let's whip
hit
around.
him with a quick. Don't be too obvious, man.
No, same thing, man. Sign up for the party. Hit up the thing tomorrow night to watch Ray play and have fun while you're doing it. But get it done. It's got to get done.
We'll see you there.
What do you think, Deb?
I say hang out with Ray tomorrow night because I'm going to be there too.
Looking forward to hanging out, Deb. And you know what? And I'm going to be, looking forward to playing some music.
What do you think, Chris? Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, he says.
Fuck yes, he says.
All right, cool. I say go to the fucking the library tonight. Hear Jamie. You know what I mean? Maybe rent a book. They actually got free movies to rent at the library.
And of course, the question was, do you want some butt sex from Ray right now?
Yeah, what do you think, Rick? Finish us off here with some good advice.
Nope. Rick is finishing Ray off.
Hey, Michigan Normal Quarterly meeting April 6th, the night before Hash Bash and the Monroe Street Fair. That's all I got.
Hell yeah. We'll be doing some Hash Bash stuff here.
Yes.
Jazz Cabbage Cafe leading up to the Great Hash Bash with people involved and guest speakers and those who organize and everything. We'll hype it up here, man. We've done it in this room before with Ray's old show.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Until next week.
Jazz Cabbage Cafe.